The rhythmic hum of the train filled the air, a soothing backdrop to the chaos of the day that had just passed. Sarah settled into her seat by the window, her worn-out handbag clutched tightly against her chest. The day had been exhausting, filled with meetings and deadlines that had drained her energy. As the train lurched forward, she felt the weight of fatigue pulling her down, and within moments, her eyelids fluttered shut, surrendering to the call of sleep. Around her, the train was packed with weary passengers, each face reflecting the toll of their own long journeys. Sarah barely noticed them. Her world had narrowed to the comforting embrace of her seat and the gentle sway of the train. It was a moment of stillness, a rare invitation to rest that she could not resist. As she drifted into unconsciousness, her head gently tipped onto the shoulder of the man sitting beside her. James, a businessman accustomed to the fast-paced rhythm of life, glanced down at her with a bemused smile. He was used to solitude, often finding himself lost in the demands of his work. But today was different. Today, a stranger had unknowingly leaned on him for comfort. His initial instinct was to nudge her awake, to restore the boundaries of personal space. Yet, something about her exhausted face stopped him. There was a vulnerability in her slumber that stirred an unfamiliar warmth within him. Instead of waking her, he allowed her to rest, feeling a connection that was both unexpected and comforting. As the train rumbled on, he continued scrolling through his phone, pretending not to notice the quiet, trusting weight against his shoulder. Hours passed, the rhythmic sound of the train lulling him into a state of contemplation. He thought about the lives of the people around him, each with their own stories, their own struggles. Suddenly, the station announcements crackled through the speakers, jolting Sarah from her slumber. She blinked awake, disoriented, confused by the unfamiliar sensation of warmth against her cheek. The realization hit her like a wave. She had been asleep on a stranger's shoulder. Embarrassment surged through her, and she quickly sat upright. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she stammered, her cheeks flushing a deep shade of red. James chuckled softly, waving off her apology. "It's okay. You looked like you needed it," he replied, his voice warm and reassuring. Still flustered, Sarah fumbled with her bag, her heart racing. Thank you," she mumbled, trying to avoid his gaze. But James wasn't looking at her anymore. He had turned his attention to the overhead luggage rack, pulling down a sleek black briefcase. As he opened it, Sarah's eyes flickered to the contents inside, neatly stacked papers, a laptop, and an envelope resting on top. A name caught her attention, printed in bold letters on the envelope, Sarah Montgomery. Her breath hitched in her throat. How did he know my name? James exhaled, choosing his words carefully. "I was going to wake you when I saw your name on your work ID peeking out of your bag," he admitted, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "And then I realized something else." He hesitated before handing her the envelope. With shaky fingers, Sarah took it and slowly opened it. Inside was a letter, neatly written in careful strokes. As she read, her heart pounded against her ribs. As Sarah read the letter, her heart raced, each word resonating deeply within her. The letter began, "Dear Sarah, you don't know me, but I know you. Not personally, but through your kindness years ago when I was at my lowest. You changed my life." Her breath caught in her throat as she continued reading, the words unfolding a story she had long forgotten. The letter went on. "You volunteered at a shelter I once stayed at, offering not just food but warmth and hope. You treated us like we mattered when the world had forgotten us. I never forgot that." Tears began to well in Sarah's eyes as she recalled those days of volunteering. She had always believed in the power of kindness, but she had never expected to hear how her actions had impacted someone so profoundly. The letter continued. "Life took a turn for me. I got back on my feet. I worked hard, And now I want to pass on the kindness you once showed me. This check is for you. It's not charity, it's gratitude. I hope it helps in whatever way you need. Thank you for being the kind of person the world needs more of." As she reached inside the envelope and pulled out the check, her hands trembled. The amount written on it stunned her: $15,000. Tears spilled down her cheeks, blurring her vision. She could barely speak, her voice a whisper. I don't understand." James smiled gently, his eyes reflecting a depth of understanding. "A long time ago, a girl with a kind smile handed me a warm meal and told me I still had worth. That girl was you. I was homeless then. Now I own my own company. I never forgot what you did for me, and when I saw your name, I knew this was my chance to say thank you." Sarah's heart swelled with emotion. She had volunteered at so many places, offered countless meals, and given words of encouragement to those in need. She had never expected anything in return. Yet here she was, years later, witnessing kindness come full circle in the most unexpected way. "I don't have to do this," she said, her voice shaking as she looked up at James, searching for reassurance. James simply nodded, his expression earnest. "I want to. You deserve this." In that moment, Sarah realized something profound. The smallest acts of kindness could ripple through time, touching lives in ways she had never imagined. As she looked at the man who had once been lost but had now found his way, she felt something shift within her, a renewed sense of hope and an unstoppable spirit. The train slowed as they approached the next station, the familiar sounds of the train announcing their arrival. James stood up, offering her a kind nod before stepping onto the platform. As he disappeared into the crowd, Sarah clutched the letter to her chest, knowing that her life had just changed forever, not because of the money, but because kindness had come back to her in the most beautiful way. A vow to keep the cycle going. As Sarah sat in her seat, the train continued to rumble along the tracks, but her mind was racing. The letter and the check felt like a lifeline thrown to her in a moment of uncertainty. She had been struggling, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, often feeling overwhelmed by the weight of her responsibilities. But now, with this unexpected gift, a glimmer of hope shone through the clouds of her daily grind. She looked down at the check again, the numbers still seeming surreal. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the recognition of her efforts, the acknowledgement that her kindness had made a difference. The thought that her small acts of compassion had rippled through someone's life, helping them find their way, filled her with a sense of purpose. As the train pulled into the station, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of determination. She stepped off the train, the cool air hitting her face, invigorating her spirit. She glanced around, the bustling crowd moving in every direction, each person lost in their own world. But she felt different now, connected to them in a way she hadn't before. With the letter still clutched tightly in her hand, she made her way to the nearest coffee shop. She ordered a warm drink, her mind racing with possibilities. What could she do with this newfound gift? How could she continue the cycle of kindness that had been so beautifully returned to her? As she sat at a small table by the window, sipping her coffee, she began to brainstorm. She thought about the shelter where she had volunteered, the faces of those she had served flashing through her mind. She could donate a portion of the check to help provide meals for those in need. Perhaps she could organize a community event, bringing people together to share stories and support one another. The ideas flowed freely, each one igniting a spark of excitement within her. She realized that this was her chance to not only pay it forward, but to inspire others to do the same. The world could be a better place, one small act of kindness at a time. As she left the coffee shop, Sarah felt a sense of purpose guiding her steps. She would reach out to the shelter, offer her help, and share her story. She wanted others to know that their kindness mattered, that it could change lives in ways they might never see. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah became a beacon of hope in her community. She organized food drives, volunteered her time, and shared her story with anyone who would listen. The letter from James became a symbol of the impact one person could have on another's life. And as she continued to give, she found that the more she shared, the more joy and fulfillment she received in return. The cycle of kindness had indeed come full circle, and she was determined to keep it going. One evening, as she was wrapping up a community event, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was James, back to visit the shelter where it all began. Their eyes met, and they exchanged smiles filled with understanding and gratitude. "Thank you for everything," he said, his voice warm and sincere. "You've inspired so many people." Sarah felt her heart swell with pride. "No, thank you. You reminded me of the power of kindness." In that moment, surrounded by laughter and the spirit of community, Sarah knew that her life had changed forever, not just because of the money or the letter, but because she had rediscovered her purpose. She had become a part of something greater, a movement of kindness that would ripple through time, touching lives in ways they could only begin to imagine. And as she looked around at the faces of those she had helped and those who had helped her, she vowed to keep the cycle going, one act of kindness at a time.